She said I'd regret leaving her. She always said it, a chilling whisper when I tried to argue, a loud declaration when I packed a bag for a weekend away with my friends, which she usually found a way to stop. My friends. I hardly remembered them now. But the day I actually walked out, the day I finally broke free. She stood in the doorway, eyes wide and glistening, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. "You'll regret this, Alex," she choked out, her voice rasped. "You'll regret losing me. No one will ever love you like I do." My stomach twisted, a familiar knot of guilt and fear. For a second, just a split second, I hesitated. Then I took a deep breath, stepped into the hallway and closed the door, the sound like a gunshot in the silent apartment building. My only regret? Not doing it sooner, not doing it years sooner. It started so innocently, like most nightmares do. Sarah was a whirlwind, all bright smiles and witty remarks, eyes that sparkled like a million tiny stars. She was the life of every party, the one who made everyone laugh. When she first noticed me, quiet Alex from the back of the class, I felt like I'd won the lottery. She made me feel seen, important. Our first few months were a blur of laughter, late-night talks, and a kind of intense connection I'd never experienced. She seemed to understand me better than I understood myself. She'd finish my sentences, anticipate my moods. It felt like destiny. Then slowly the cracks started to show. Not big gaping holes at first, just tiny hairline fractures. Like the time I mentioned wanting to go camping with my old buddies, Mark and Dave. We'd talked about it for months. Sarah's smile full. "Oh, camping?" she said, her voice a little higher than usual. "But darling, I thought we were going to that art fair that weekend. You know, the one with the vintage posters you love so much." I blinked. We hadn't really talked about an art fair, not specifically, but she said it with such conviction, such a look of hurt in her eyes, that I felt instantly guilty. "Oh, right," I mumbled. "Yeah, the art fair. Sounds great." I texted Mark later, apologizing, making up some excuse about a family thing. He sounded disappointed, but he got it. Sarah beamed at me, wrapping her arms around my neck. "See? I knew you'd prefer spending time with me, my love. We're so good together." That was the first time I felt that weird twist in my gut, that tiny voice asking, did we really talk about that art fair? But I pushed it down. She loved me. She just wanted to spend time with me. It was sweet, right? It was just how much she cared. The incidents piled up, small pebbles at first, then larger rocks, until I was buried under a mountain of. My band, the one I'd played guitar in since high school, started to feel like a chore. Sarah would come to practice, sitting quietly at first, then offering suggestions. "Alex, darling, your solos are a little loud, aren't they? It drowns out the vocals." Or, "Guys, maybe you should try a different genre. This rock stuff is a bit aggressive, don't you think?" The other guys started getting uncomfortable. We'd always been a punk rock outfit, loud and proud. Sarah's comments, delivered with a sweet smile, made them hesitant. Practices became tense. Soon, she started scheduling important dates on our practice nights. WUG premieres, surprise dinners, spontaneous trips to a cabin she found. I tried to reschedule practice, but the guys started giving up. "It's cool, Alex," Mark would say, his voice flat. "Go have fun with Sarah. We'll just jam on our own." The band slowly fizzled out. I told myself it was natural. Bands break up all the time. Sarah offered to buy me a new acoustic guitar. "You can play gentle songs for me," she cooed, snuggling into my side. "Your music is for me now, my love." That knot in my stomach was growing, tightening a little more each day. But every time I felt a flicker of annoyance, a spark of rebellion, Sarah would sense it. She was like a hawk, always watching. She'd get quiet. Her eyes would fill with tears. "Are you unhappy, Alex? Is it me? I try so hard to make you happy. I just love you so much, and I worry I am not enough." And then, of course, the inevitable, "You'll regret it." Line would slip out, usually when I was feeling most vulnerable, most confused. It was never a threat, not overtly. It was always delivered with a sigh, a sad shake of her head, as if she was lamenting some future sorrow that I would bring upon myself. "You'll regret it, darling. You'll regret pushing me away." And I believed her. I really did. I couldn't imagine my life without her. She was my world. She had made sure of that. My family started calling less. At first, I was too busy with Sarah to notice. Then, when my mom called, Sarah would be right there, her ear practically pressed to the phone, asking, "Who is that, darling?" or making a face if I talked too long. Eventually, she'd suggest, "Maybe you should call your mom back later, honey. She seems a bit needy." Or, "Your sister is so dramatic, isn't she? Always complaining." I started to agree with her, seeing my family through her critical lens. My mom was a bit overbearing. My sister was a bit whiny. Sarah made me feel like she was the only one who truly understood me, who saw the world correctly. Everyone else was just flawed. I remember one night, staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My eyes looked tired, shadowed. My shoulders slumped. I barely recognized the guy staring back. Where was the confident, easygoing Alex who used to laugh easily? Who played loud music and argued passionately about movies? He was gone. Placed by this quiet, anxious version of myself, always checking Sarah's mood, always trying to anticipate her needs, always trying to avoid making her sad. Because when Sarah was sad, the entire world stopped. And it was always, always my fault. She had a way of turning everything around. If I was upset about something she did, she would twist it until I was apologizing to her. "How could you even think I would do that, Alex? After everything I've done for you, it hurts me that you don't trust me, and I'd feel like a monster." The words, "You'll regret it," echoed in my mind, a constant reminder of the terrible fate that awaited me if I dared to step out of line. I was in a cage, a beautiful gilded cage, and the bars were made of guilt, fear, and a twisted kind of love. I just didn't know how to break free. Not yet. The air in our apartment felt heavy, thick with unspoken rules and carefully navigated silences. Every day was a performance, a delicate dance around Sarah's unpredictable moods. My own personality, once vibrant and spontaneous, had shrunk to fit the narrow confines of her expectation. I was a shadow of my former self, and the worst part was, I barely even noticed it happening. It was a slow, insidious erosion, like waves wearing down a cliff face, one tiny grain of sand at a time. Sarah loved to tell stories about us, especially to her friends or family. They were always perfect, idealized versions of our life together. "Alex is just so devoted," she'd gush, squeezing my hand with a dazzling smile. "He hardly ever goes out without me. He just loves our cozy nights in." Her friends would nod approvingly, maybe glance at me with a look of admiration, and I'd force a smile back, feeling like a complete fraud. The truth was, I hardly ever went out without her, because she'd made it impossible. Every time I planned something with someone else, something would come up. An emergency with her car, a sudden headache, a panic attack she just knew was coming on. And of course, I couldn't leave her alone when she was like that. One time, my colleague David invited me to a game night with a few people from work. I actually managed to say yes without running it by Sarah first. Big mistake. When I told her later, she got this faraway look in her eyes. "Oh," she said, her voice small. I thought we were going to cook that special dinner tonight. The one you said you liked so much. I even bought all the expensive ingredients. My heart sank. "We can do it tomorrow night," I suggested, trying to sound cheerful. She shook her head, a single tear welling up. "It won't be the same, Alex. I put so much thought into it, and I was really looking forward to just being with you tonight. I feel a bit neglected lately." Cue the guilt tsunami. I cancelled on David again. He just texted back Kay, and I felt a fresh wave of shame. I knew he was probably getting tired of my excuses. I started to withdraw. It was easier than navigating Sarah's emotional minefield. If I didn't make plans, she couldn't sabotage them. If I didn't express an opinion, she couldn't twist. My world became smaller and smaller, until it consisted almost entirely of our apartment and my job, which felt like a blessed escape, even if it was just for 8 hours a day. My colleagues noticed. David pulled me aside one day. "Hey man, everything okay? You seem a little quiet lately." I just shrugged. "Yeah, just busy, you know." He looked at me for a long moment, then just nodded slowly. I knew he didn't believe me. Sarah, meanwhile, thrived on this isolation. She'd say things like, "We don't need anyone else, Alex. We have each other. Isn't that enough?" And because I was so depleted, so desperate for some semblance of peace, I'd agree. It was enough. It had to be. She became my sole source of validation, my only mirror. And the reflection she showed me was the one she wanted me to see. A loving, devoted partner who was just a little bit lost without her. Her control wasn't just over my social life. It seeped into everything. My clothes, my hobbies, even what I ate. "That shirt makes you look a bit bulky, darling," she'd say, gently nudging me towards a different one. "Maybe we should try that new diet trend. You'd look amazing." She'd scroll through my phone, just checking the weather, but her eyes would linger on my messages. My passwords, she knew them all, for emergencies. I never gave them to her, she just knew. I didn't question it. Maybe I had told her. My memory was getting hazy anyway. One evening I found an old photo album, pictures of me from before Sarah. Me with my band, grinning like an idiot, sweat dripping, hair wild. Me with Mark and Dave, beer cans in hand, laughing at some dumb joke. Me with my sister Emily, arms around each other, celebrating her graduation. I barely recognized the happy, unburdened face in those pictures. It was like looking at a stranger. A deep ache settled in my chest. Who was that person? Where did he go? Sarah came in, saw the album. Her smile tightened. "Oh, those old things," she said dismissively. "You look so young. And a bit rough, don't you think? You've really blossomed since we've been together, darling. I've helped you become the man you are today." She picked up a photo of me and Emily. "Your sister always had such a harsh expression, didn't she? So judgy." She put the album back on the shelf, not gently, but with a slight shove. "Let's make some new memories, Alex. Just us." That night, lying in bed next to her, I felt a desperate loneliness. I was surrounded by her, engulfed by her, yet I felt utterly, completely alone. The golden cage was beautiful on the outside, gleaming with her affection and attention, but inside, I was suffocated. I missed my old life, my old self, with a fierce, quiet longing that I rarely allowed myself to acknowledge. I missed the simple freedom of making my own choices, of having friends who didn't need her approval, of playing music that wasn't tailored to her preferences. The bars of the cage were invisible, but they were strong, reinforced by her constant reassurances that she was the best thing that ever happened to me. And the terrifying whisper that kept me paralyzed: "You'll regret." The worst part wasn't the isolation, or even the subtle control. It was the way she messed with my head. Sarah was a master of gaslighting, though I didn't know the word for it back then. All I knew was that I felt like I was losing my mind, constantly questioning my own memory, my own sanity. It started small. We'd have a conversation, a perfectly clear one, about something important. Say, a bill that needed paying or plans for the weekend. Then, a few days later, when I'd bring it up, she'd look at me blankly. "What are you talking about, Alex? We never discussed that." Or, "No, darling, you must be mistaken. We specifically decided against that." And she'd say it with such conviction, such a look of genuine confusion, that I'd start to doubt myself. Had I imagined it? Had I misremembered? My memory wasn't perfect after all. One time, I distinctly remembered her agreeing to let me go to my cousin's wedding. She'd even helped me pick out a gift. A week before the wedding, I mentioned it again, excited. She blinked. "The wedding?" "Alex, you know I can't go. My old college roommate is having her baby shower that day. I told you this weeks ago." I stared at her. "No, you didn't, Sarah. We talked about the wedding. You said we'd go." Her eyes welled up. "How can you say that, Alex? After I told you everything about Jessica's baby, I even showed you the invitation. Are you feeling all right, darling? You seem a bit forgetful lately." She sounded genuinely concerned, which only made me feel worse. Was I forgetting things? Was I losing it? I felt a wave of dizziness. She even pulled out a text message from her roommate, dated weeks ago, talking about the baby shower. Of course, the text didn't say she couldn't go to the wedding, just that the baby shower was that day. But in my confused state, with her calm, steady voice telling me I was wrong, I couldn't process the nuance. I apologized profusely. "I am so sorry, Sarah." "You are right. My mistake. I must be really out of it." She'd nod sadly. "It's okay, my love. We all have those moments. I'm just worried about you. Maybe you should get more rest." And I'd start to believe her. I'd start to believe I was forgetful, that I was confused, that I was the one making all these errors. My confidence plummeted. I stopped trusting my own judgment. I started relying on her to tell me what was real, what had happened. Sometimes, she'd deny things she'd said that were clearly hurtful. "I would never say something like that, Alex. You know how much I love you. Why would you even think I'd be so cruel?" And if I brought up specific words, she'd twist them. "Oh, I said that. But it was in a completely different context. You are taking it out of context. You are misinterpreting everything." It was exhausting, constantly defending my own perception of reality. Eventually, I just stopped trying. It was easier to just agree with her, even if it meant denying my own senses. This extended to my feelings too. If I expressed anger or frustration about something she did, she'd immediately flip. "You're just feeling defensive, Alex, because you know you did something wrong." Or, "Why are you always so angry? You need to calm down. You are scaring me." And my anger would morph into guilt. Was I really always angry? Was I scaring her? I started to censor my emotions, afraid of her reaction, afraid of being labeled as too emotional or unstable. Her greatest hits of manipulation were always followed by the "you'll regret it" line. After a particularly bad gaslighting episode, when I was clearly distressed, she'd pull me close, stroke my hair and whisper, "See, darling, we belong together. You'd be so lost without me. You'd regret it if you ever left." It was a constant reinforcement, a deep psychological hook that kept me tethered to her. She was the one who kept me sane, she claimed. She was the only one who truly understood me, who could handle my forgetfulness and moods. I remember one morning, I woke up feeling a little better than usual. A tiny spark of something like defiance. I thought, I'm going to make coffee how I like it today, strong and black, not that weak stuff Sarah insists on. A tiny, pathetic act of rebellion. I went to the kitchen. Sarah was already there, meticulously measuring out her preferred amount of coffee grounds. She saw me. Her face clouded slightly. "Oh, good morning, my love," she said, but there was a hint of something cold in her voice. "I was just making our coffee, the way you like it. I know how much you appreciate it when I take care of you." She poured me a cup of the pale, weak brew. I forced a smile. "Thanks, honey." My rebellious spark fizzled out, replaced by a familiar wave of resignation. My own thoughts became unreliable. I'd catch myself replaying conversations, trying to figure out if I truly remembered them wrong. I'd write notes to myself, little reminders, just to check if what she was saying matched what I knew. But even that felt crazy. I was starting to believe her, to believe that I was the problem, that I was forgetful, that I was too emotional, that I was lucky to have her. My identity was dissolving, replaced by the one she had carefully constructed for me. The cage wasn't just physical anymore. It was mental, emotional. It was in my very perception of reality. And the idea of leaving, of facing the world alone with my faults and forgetfulness, seemed more terrifying than staying. After all, she said I'd regret it. And she was always right, wasn't she? I was sinking, deeper and deeper into a fog of confusion and self-doubt. Every day felt like walking through quicksand, each step heavier than the last. I rarely left the apartment unless it was for work. And even then, I rushed home, a frantic anxiety buzzing under my skin. What if Sarah called and I didn't answer? What if she needed something? What if she felt neglected? The guilt was a constant companion, a heavy cloak draped over my shoulders. One particularly gray afternoon, I was at work, staring at my computer screen but not really seeing it. My head throbbed. I felt hollowed out, like a gourd scraped clean. My phone vibrated. It was a text from an unknown number. My heart leaped into my throat. Sarah usually texted from her usual number, unless it was an emergency. I opened it cautiously. "Hey Alex, it's Emily, your sister. I know it's been a while, just wanted to check in. Been thinking about you. Call me if you ever want to talk. No pressure, love you." I stared at the screen. Emily, my sister. I hadn't spoken to her properly in months. Sarah always said Emily was too dramatic, too negative, always trying to stir up trouble. She'd intercept calls, claim I was busy, or just make me feel bad for wanting to talk to her. My finger hovered over the delete button. Sarah checked my phone after all. If she saw this. But then a tiny flicker, a spark of something almost forgotten, ignited in my chest. Emily, my sister. She loved me, no matter what. She didn't judge me. She wasn't manipulative. I remembered how she always stood up for me when we were kids. How she'd listen for hours when I had a problem. Sarah had convinced me Emily was the bad one, the toxic one. But looking at that simple, loving message, something inside me stirred. This was a direct lifeline, a connection to a world outside Sarah's carefully constructed reality. My hands trembled slightly. I closed the message. I didn't delete it. That was the first small act of defiance. Later that day, during my lunch break, I walked to a park a few blocks away, a place Sarah never went. I sat on a cold bench, my heart pounding. I looked at Emily's text again. I typed a reply. "Hey Em, good to hear from you. Things are a bit crazy here. Maybe I can call you tomorrow. Love you too." I hit send before I could second guess myself. The relief that washed over me was immediate, overwhelming. It was like taking my first proper breath after being underwater for years. I had done something Sarah would disapprove of. I had reached out. It was terrifying but exhilarating. That night back in the apartment, I felt a nervous energy. Sarah seemed to sense it. "You are quiet tonight, darling," she said. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Is everything all right? You seem a bit distracted." I forced a smile. "Just tired, honey. Long day." I avoided her gaze, focusing on my dinner plate. She watched me, her gaze piercing. I felt her searching, probing. My phone was on the counter, face down. I made sure it stayed that way. The next day at work, I waited for lunch. I found a secluded stairwell and pulled out my phone. My fingers fumbling, I dialed Emily's number. It rang twice. "Alex?" Her voice was hesitant, then flooded with warmth. "Oh my God, Alex. It's so good to hear from you." Tears pricked my eyes. "Hey, Em," I managed, my voice thick. We talked for nearly an hour, whispering into the phone like teenagers. I didn't tell her everything. Not at first. I just said things were tough, that I felt a bit isolated. She listened, patiently. "I've been so worried about you, Alex," she said softly. "You just disappeared. Sarah always said you were busy or sick or something, but I had a feeling. That was it. That simple validation. I had a feeling. Someone else saw it too. It wasn't just me." "She doesn't let me talk to anyone, Em," I blurted out, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. "She says everyone is negative. She says you are negative. She says I'll regret it if I leave her." There was a pause on the other end. Then Emily's voice, firm and clear. "Alex, that's not love, that's control. And she's lying to you. You won't regret leaving her. You'll regret not doing it sooner." Her words hit me like a physical blow, but in a good way. Like a punch that knocked me awake. Tiny crack appeared in the golden cage, letting in a sliver of light. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt a surge of hope. It was a tiny hope, fragile as a butterfly wing. But it was there, and it told me that maybe, just maybe, I could get out. Emily's words echoed in my head. "You won't regret leaving her. You'll regret not doing it sooner." That phrase became a mantra, a quiet rebellion forming in the hidden corners of my mind. Hearing it from someone else, someone I trusted, someone who knew the real me, made all the difference. It validated every nagging doubt, every buried fear I had. The secret calls with Emily became my lifeline. I'd sneak away during lunch breaks, or lock myself in the bathroom and whisper into the phone. She listened patiently, without judgment. I poured out everything. The gaslighting, the isolation, the constant fear of upsetting Sarah, the way my world had shrunk. Emily didn't try to fix it all at once. She just affirmed my reality. "That's not normal, Alex. She's manipulating you. You deserve better." Each simple statement was a stone removed from the heavy burden I carried. She also gently pushed me to see things for myself. "Remember when Sarah convinced you that I said that thing about your job? I never said that, Alex. I actually told you I was proud of you." And slowly, painfully, I started to piece together the truth. Sarah hadn't just twisted my memories, she had outright invented things, planted ideas in my head, rewritten history. The realization was sickening. It made me feel foolish, naive, angry, but also strangely empowered. 'Cause if she was lying about that, what else was she lying about? Emily suggested I reconnect with Mark and Dave. "They're worried about you, Alex. They miss you." The thought filled me with dread. What would I say? How would I explain my disappearance? But Emily insisted. So one day I sent a text to Mark. "Hey man, long time. Got some stuff going on. Can we grab a beer sometime?" To my surprise, he responded immediately. "Dude, yes, anytime. You okay?" Meeting Mark for a beer felt like stepping onto another planet. We sat in a noisy pub, and at first I was stiff, awkward, constantly glancing at my phone, half expecting a text from Sarah demanding my return. Mark just talked about his life, his new band, the usual stuff. Then he looked at me, really looked at me. Seriously, Alex, what's up? You look like you've seen a ghost, and you are so thin. The dam broke. I told him some of it, enough to get across how trapped I felt. He listened, his face growing grim. Man, I always thought Sarah was a bit intense, but this is next level. He validated my feelings, just like Emily. You gotta get out, dude. This isn't you. With Emily's unwavering support and Mark's rekindled friendship, a path forward began to emerge. It was terrifying, but the alternative. Staying in Sarah's cage, losing myself completely, was even more so. I started to make a plan, secretly. First, money. Sarah controlled our joint account, which she called our shared future fund. Every transaction I made was visible to her. So I opened a new bank account, a small one, linked to my own personal email, and a new phone number I also got. I started diverting a small portion of my paycheck there, making sure it was a negligible amount. Something Sarah wouldn't notice. It was slow, agonizingly slow, but every dollar was a step towards freedom. Next, a place to go. Emily immediately offered her spare room. You can stay here as long as you need, Alex. No questions asked. The sheer generosity of her offer brought tears to my eyes. A safe haven. A place where I could breathe. The hardest part was how to leave. Sarah was always home, or knew exactly where I was. I couldn't just walk out with a packed suitcase. She'd see it. She'd stop me. I needed an escape window, a believable reason to be out of the house alone for long enough to get away. The opportunity came unexpectedly. Sarah announced she was going on a weekend retreat with her old college friends. A girls' bonding trip, she called it. She'd be gone from Friday morning to Sunday evening. It was perfect. I could pack my things, secure my important documents, and leave without a direct confrontation. I kept up the facade during the week leading up to it, played the loving, devoted partner, made sure she felt secure. It was hard, feeling like a hypocrite, but I knew it was necessary. I secretly started gathering important papers. My passport, birth certificate, old photos that meant something to me. I hid them in a backpack under my bed, tucked inside old clothes. I even bought a small cheap duffel bag saying it was for the gym and hid it in my car. The night before she left, Sarah was particularly clingy. I am going to miss you so much, darling, she said, burying her face in my chest. Feels so strange to be away from you even for a few days. I held her, a strange mix of fear and relief churning inside me. I'll miss you too, I lied, my voice steady. Have a great time. She probably heard the tremor though. Or maybe it was just me. She looked up, her eyes narrowing. You won't get into any trouble while I am gone, will you, Alex? Remember, you'll regret it if you do. It was a chilling reminder, but this time the words didn't paralyze me. They hardened my resolve. No, Sarah. My only regret will be not doing this sooner. Friday morning arrived. Sarah buzzed with excitement about her trip. She double-checked her bags, gave me a long kiss goodbye, and a final lingering look. Be good, my love, she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. I'll call you as soon as I get there. I nodded, watching her walk out the door, feeling the weight lift with every step she took away from the apartment. The second I heard the elevator ding, I sprang into action. This was it. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the sudden silence of the apartment. Sarah was gone. For a few glorious days, the cage door was open. I wouldn't waste a second. I moved with a quiet intensity, a surge of adrenaline pushing me forward. First, my important documents. Passport, birth certificate, Social security card, tucked securely into an inner pocket of the gym duffel bag. Then clothes. Not everything, just essentials. I grabbed my worn denim jacket, the one Sarah said made me look unkempt, and a few t-shirts she had deemed unflattering. These small acts of defiance felt huge. I packed the old photo album, the one with the pictures of pre-Sarah Alex and my old guitar, the one she'd replaced with the acoustic. It felt like reclaiming parts of myself. I cleaned out my small office drawer, taking personal letters, old concert tickets, anything that held a memory of my life before her. I left behind anything Sarah had given me, any shared photos with her in them. It felt strangely cleansing, like shedding a skin. The apartment felt eerily still, yet also incredibly loud, with the sounds of my own breathing, my own frantic movements. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant siren made me jump. What if she forgot something? What if she came back early? The fear was still there, a strong undercurrent, but it was overshadowed by a desperate need for freedom. I had planned to leave a note, something simple, something final. But as I sat down with a pen and paper, the words wouldn't come. How do you explain years of mental anguish in a few sentences? How do you sum up the slow death of your soul? I crumpled the paper. There was nothing to say. She wouldn't understand. She would twist it. I did, however, write a single line on the kitchen whiteboard, where she always left me little love notes. I am leaving. Please, don't contact me. I knew it was pointless. She would contact me. But it felt important, a clear boundary drawn. My hands shook as I carried the duffel bag and my guitar to the car. I had parked it a few blocks away, just in case she had someone watching the apartment. A paranoid thought that had taken root in my mind. The sun was setting, casting long, dramatic shadow. I loaded everything into the trunk, slammed it shut, and then, without looking back, I got into the driver's seat. As I pulled away from the curb, I felt a rush of something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Pure, unadulterated relief. It was a cold, sharp feeling, but it was mine. I didn't know where I was going, not exactly, but I knew it was away. I drove straight to Emily's apartment, my phone vibrating intermittently in my pocket. Sarah. She must have landed, must have realized I wasn't answering. I ignored it. I was shaking, my palms sweating on the steering wheel, but I kept driving. Emily opened the door, her face a mix of worry and immense relief. "Oh, Alex," she cried, pulling me into a fierce hug. "You made it." I clung to her, the sheer physical contact with someone safe and loving feeling foreign and wonderful. I felt tears streaming down my face, hot and fast. I hadn't cried in years, not really. That night, sleeping on Emily's couch, I woke up repeatedly, jolted by phantom phone calls, by the feeling of her hand on my arm, by the sound of her voice in my ear. Each time, I had to remind myself I was safe. I was out. The phone calls started almost immediately after I arrived at Emily's. Sarah. First, just a few texts. "Where are you, Alex? Are you okay? Call me immediately." Then they escalated. Dozens of missed calls. Voicemails filled with escalating emotions. The first few were concerned, pleading. "Alex, please, I am so worried. What happened? Talk to me. I love you, darling. Please come home." My chest ached with a familiar guilt. Had I made a mistake? Was she truly worried? Emily sat beside me, gently urging me not to answer. "It's a trap, Alex. She's trying to reel you back in." Then the tone shifted. The pleading turned to anger, then to accusations. "How could you do this to me, Alex, after everything I've done for you? I sacrificed so much for us. You are selfish. You are a coward." The texts were vicious, designed to wound. No one will ever love you like I do. You are worthless without me. You'll regret this, Alex. You'll regret throwing away everything we had. Each time she said you'll regret this, it landed with less force. It was her go-to line, her ultimate weapon, and it was losing its power. I was out. I was safe. And slowly the fear was being replaced by something else. Anger. Not at myself, but at her. At how she had manipulated me, controlled me, stripped away my identity. She started calling Emily. Emily showed me the messages. What have you done to Alex? He's acting crazy. You are putting ideas in his head. He'll regret listening to you. Emily just blocked her number. The police came to Emily's apartment. Sarah had filed a missing person report, claiming I was unstable and endangered. Emily calmly explained the situation, showed them some of Sarah's more aggressive texts. The officers were professional, taking notes, asking questions. They spoke to me directly. I told them I was fine, I was safe, and I had left of my own free will. They left, and a few hours later, I got a text from Sarah. You called the police on me. You are unbelievable, Alex. You are ruining my life. You'll regret making me do this. I felt a cold, clear resolve. She was desperate. Her control was gone and she was flailing. This was not love. This was possessiveness. This was a sick game she played, and I was finally off the board. The emotional fallout was intense. I had nightmares. Vivid, suffocating dreams of being trapped, of Sarah's face looming over me, her eyes filled with rage and disappointment. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, my heart hammering, and it would take a few minutes to remember where I was, that I was safe. Emily was incredibly patient, letting me talk for hours just being there. She suggested therapy. It's not a weakness, Alex, she said gently. It's a way to process everything, to heal. I was hesitant. My initial reaction was the familiar shame. I am not crazy. I don't need therapy. But then I remembered how Sarah always told me I was unstable when I questioned her. This was different. This was for me. So I agreed. My first therapy session was eye-opening. The therapist, a kind older woman named Dr. Evans, listened calmly as I stumbled through my story, words catching in my throat. When I finished, she simply nodded. What you experienced, Alex, is a classic pattern of emotional abuse and gaslighting. It's not your fault. It takes incredible strength to leave a situation like that. Her words were like a balm on an open wound. It's not your fault. For years, I had believed it was all my fault. She helped me understand the cycles of abuse, how Sarah isolated me, eroded my self-esteem, and systematically dismantled my reality. It was like she was giving me a map to the labyrinth I had been trapped in. Every session was a step towards understanding, towards reclaiming my own narrative. Slowly, the fear started to recede, replaced by a quiet strength. The anger was still there, but it was a more productive anger now, a fuel for rebuilding, not a destructive force. I started small. I reconnected with Mark and Dave, properly this time. They were understanding, supportive. We even dusted off our old instruments and jammed in Mark's garage. My fingers were clumsy at first, but the familiar chords, the loud, joyful noise felt like coming home. I started cooking again, simple meals that brought me comfort. I went for long walks exploring the city, noticing things I hadn't seen in years. I read books, watched movies Sarah would have scoffed at. Each small act was a reclamation, a defiant assertion of my own preferences, my own identity. The Alex I had lost was slowly, tentatively, beginning to emerge from the shadows. And with each step the conviction grew. Leaving Sarah was the best decision I had ever made. My only regret was letting her steal so much time from me. The healing was not linear. There were good days, where I felt light and hopeful, and bad days, where the memories of Sarah's control would creep back in, casting a long shadow. But even on the bad days, I now had tools to cope. Dr. Evans had taught me grounding techniques, ways to challenge the negative thought patterns Sarah had ingrained in me. I learned to recognize the triggers, the moments where I still felt that familiar knot of guilt or fear, and how to consciously untangle them. Emily remained my rock. She didn't hover, she just was there. We'd spend evenings watching movies, cooking together, talking for hours. She helped me set up my new bank account, helped me get a new phone number that Sarah wouldn't know. She made sure I felt safe. Her unconditional love was a powerful antidote to Sarah's conditional, suffocating version of affection. I slowly started rebuilding my social life, one cautious step at a time. I joined a casual sports league, something I'd always wanted to do, but Sarah had dismissed as too sweaty or a waste of time. I reconnected with a few old colleagues who welcomed me back into the fold without judgment. Constant fear of being found out, of having Sarah suddenly appear, slowly faded. I started leaving my phone on silent, checking her calls and texts only when I felt strong enough. Most of them went straight to the block list now. She sent a few final, desperate pleas, mixed with venomous insults, but they didn't sting anymore. They just sounded pathetic. My confidence, once shattered, began to mend. I started making decisions for myself, big and small, without the overwhelming need for someone else's approval. I changed my hairstyle, bought new clothes that I liked, started going to a local coffee shop, just because I enjoyed the atmosphere. These might seem like trivial things, but to me they were monumental acts of self-reclamation. Every choice was a victory. Work also felt different. Before, it was just an escape. Now I started to actually engage, to contribute ideas, to enjoy the challenge. My colleagues noticed the change. David, my friend from work, told me, "You seem like yourself again, Alex. More relaxed, more present." Hearing that someone else saw the real me returning, was incredibly powerful. I also took steps to legally protect myself. With Emily's help, I looked into getting a restraining order against Sarah. It felt extreme, but necessary. The therapist explained that it was a way to create a physical boundary, to reinforce the emotional one I was building. Process was daunting, filling out forms, recalling painful details. But knowing it would keep me safe gave me the strength to push through. The feeling of regret that Sarah had always threatened me with never materialized. Instead, a profound sense of loss settled over me. Not for her, but for the years I had wasted. For the person I had been forced to become. That was my only regret. Not seeing the truth sooner, not being strong enough to leave earlier. It was a heavy thought, but it wasn't debilitating. It was a lesson learned, a scar that would remind me to always protect my own spirit, my own truth. I started playing guitar again, not just in Mark's garage, but for myself. I wrote songs, raw and honest, about feeling trapped, about finding freedom, about the long journey back to myself. Music, once a source of tension, was now a source of healing. It was my voice finally unmuted. I saw a photo of Sarah on social media, shared by an old mutual acquaintance. She looked the same, beautiful, poised, her smile dazzling. She was with a new partner, a man with a gentle smile and tired eyes, standing a little too close to her, looking a little too strained. I felt a pang, not of jealousy or longing, but of pity. She was still Sarah, still playing her games, still building her golden cages. And someone else was now inside it. I wished him well, truly. I knew what he was in for. But that moment also solidified something within me. I was free. I had broken the cycle. I was no longer that man trapped and shrinking. I was Alex again, stronger, wiser, and deeply grateful for the second chance at life I had given myself. The phrase, "You'll regret leaving me," now sounded hollow, a distant echo from a nightmare I had finally woken up from. My only regret was not doing it sooner. And in that realization, there was immense peace and a quiet, profound joy. I was finally, truly free.